is it? Just got the turbine spinning backwards. My name is Michael Blankenship, and I am the owner of Apex Performance and Fabrication. And here we specialize in aftermarket modifications for vehicles, exclusively different types of fabrication. So I started modifying cars because I grew up around cars with my father drag racing. So I always had this need for speed. It's kind of just in my blood. And my first car that I got that I really liked was actually an Audi. It was a B5 chassis, just like my S4, but it was an A4. It was really slow, and I wanted to make it faster. And so I got an intake from eBay. And from there, just kind of this obsession grew with like getting something faster. And that's when I picked up my S4, and it was just all downhill from there. Once I got that, you know, the world was my oyster. I just kept modifying it and seeing how far I could take it. So what does tuning your car mean? Tuning your car, it's basically modifying the parameters of the ECU to fit the equipment that you have put on the car. So this can vary. A lot of times tuning needs to be done when you change something particular to the fueling setup or the air intake. And that can be done through injectors, fuel pumps, turbochargers, superchargers, and so forth. So what you need to start tuning your car, I would first recommend a little basic knowledge. There's a lot of books that you can read. One of my favorite authors is actually Corky Bell. He has a lot of awesome books that give you a lot of understanding behind engines and how they work. And you need to know what ignition timing does and fueling and how changing these parameters in an ECU will affect how the car runs. And as far as going about that, there's many different ways depending on your platform. You know, if you're driving a Honda, there's Honda, there's a GM platform, and then there's even aftermarket ECUs like I run in my car. So many ways to skin that cat. So what you need to start fabricating is a welder, first of all, and there's a lot of budget welders. I started off with a budget welder. I had my whole setup in my garage for $800 or less. So I got one of the HP Alpha TIGs, and I used that for probably close to 2 or 3 years before I got to a point where I felt that I needed a better welder to progress my welding skills. So that's one of the first things you need. And if you're getting into automotive fabrication, you almost always need something to cut material, whether it be tube, bar stock, and that's usually going to be a bandsaw. I started off with a Harbor Freight bandsaw. I still have it in my shop to this day, not that I use it, but it's an awesome point for any beginner. Something you can get for $250 and readily use and not have too many issues with. And those are just the basic ones. Those few things will get you a majority of the way. And then after that, it's just whatever you want to make the job easier. So some of my favorite things about the Audi B5 S4 platform. Well, first, I would define the B5 S4 platform as a cult classic. It has a large following in the Audi community because when it came out, it was a bit ahead of its time as far as competing with the other German luxury sedans and coupes from BMW and Mercedes. It was very tame from the factory, but with just a few bolt-ons and a tune, it would absolutely destroy all the competition. So it always had a large following, and I grew up wanting that car. And so my favorite things about it is that classic nostalgia that the car has. And it's just this timeless classic with simple lines. And there's nothing fancy about it. It's just simple. The interior is simple. It's clean. Nothing stands out. And it's just a refined, simple car. And something about that look draws me in. And I just want to make it really fast and kind of create a sleeper. Some things that I hate about the Audi B5 S4 platform. Well, first of all, don't ever own one when you're in college. I can speak to that. They are a pain to maintain. You need every tool in Harbor Freight just to, change a fuse. It's goofy. They're notorious for breaking down a lot. They have a lot of issues. But despite all these things and all the problems, I don't think that I would be where I am today without having owned one of those cars because of the lessons that it taught me and the mechanical knowledge I gained from having it. Hence, I had to pull the motor in about 1 month of ownership because the head gasket blew, and that will teach you a lot. So the best modifications for any car, I think it really depends on where you're going with it. Me, I like to go fast in a straight line. So some of the first things I would do to a car are basic bolt-ons and a tune. Most turbocharged cars, just some bolt-ons and a tune can net you some pretty good power gains. If you're more into handling, some basic coilovers and some brakes will go the distance. And one of the most overlooked things oftentimes are just tires. Tires are so important. The difference between a $600 set of tires and a $1,200 set of tires is astronomical. Some of the things coming up for me in my business right now is we are moving into a larger space in September, and we recently signed paperwork for that. It's over double the size of our current space, and it will allow us to put our dyno in the ground, and I think it's going to open a lot of outlets. Recently had someone come in and start helping me in the shop, so it's not just a one-person army anymore, and we're going to be looking and doing a little bit more than just fabrication. We're going to look into getting into more tuning, looking to get into more just automotive performance in general, maybe even some mechanic work too as time permits. I think the idea is within a few years to have a few employees and general enthusiasts in the shop working throughout the whole week. So people can find me on my Facebook page. That is where I communicate with most of my customers. It's just Apex Performance and Fabrication. And I have an Instagram as well and a website. You can reach me there. All of my pages have my phone number on them, so you can reach my personal line and get a hold of me that way.